Hey, it's Nancy. Before we begin today, I just wanted to let you know that you can listen to Crime Beat early and ad-free on Amazon Music, included with Prime.
A listener's note. The following episode contains coarse language, adult themes, and content of a violent and disturbing nature, and may not be suitable for everyone. Listener discretion is advised.
Motorists north of Finch Avenue in Toronto thought they had come across an accident on the afternoon of August 26, 2022. It's far from the busy downtown core, so witnesses were shocked to see a vehicle that had jumped the curb. About a dozen drivers stopped, and what they saw was a violent and chaotic scene that would change them forever.
Oh my God,
she's got holes in her back.
I'm Nancy Hixt, a senior crime reporter for Global News. Today, we continue our special series of Crime Beat, where I'm joined by my colleagues from the TV documentary series. In this episode, Catherine McDonald shares the story of Elvie Sigod and her daughter, Angelica, in Before My Eyes.
So we're approaching Bathurst Street, this turn that I do tens of times a week.
The afternoon of August 26th, 2022, started out like any other for Royi Flescher. He had just finished work in the North York region of Toronto and was driving home for the weekend around 3 in the afternoon.
At that time, I was running my own business called Mug and Meats at a butcher shop serving the Jewish community. I had to work late, so I didn't even get changed. So usually I wear white, butcher pants and butcher shirts. Drove the same road 20, 30 times every week.
He never could have imagined the horror that he was about to encounter on one of Toronto's busiest streets.
I was driving past and doing at least 60 kilometers an hour. From right the corner of my eye, I saw something. It was like two people arguing or fighting, like some sort of an altercation. I basically positioned my mirror to the scene of the people, and then I saw like a knife. I saw a stabbing motion. I think he was stabbing the first lady who was standing up. I think she had a white shirt. So you could see the red on her shirt. And then I saw her collapsing. I got out of the car.
Royi Flescher walked across Bathurst Street near Ellerslie Avenue towards the violent scene.
And as I walked out of the car, the man moved to the second victim, the younger lady who was lying face down on the floor. And he stabbed her probably about 5 to 8 times with big knife, 2 hands thrusting into her back. He then went back to the first victim, which was lying on the ground, stabbed her another couple of times.
Flescher then watched as the attacker sat down on the guardrail on the side of the road close to the back of the silver Lexus. Meanwhile, Soula Berdoussis was in a rush on her way to pick up a client when she noticed cars all over the place and people standing on the road as she headed south on Bathurst Street.
I slowly made my way down, and cars weren't moving, so I started honking. I made my way down here, and I stopped right here. The car stopped right here because there was a body on the road, and there was a body on the sidewalk, and the car that I had thought was part of the accident. And my first reaction was, I need to help these people that were in this car accident. I got out of the van, and I crouched down like this to help her. I saw her face, which didn't look normal because of the gashes that she had. And I looked at her wounds, and they weren't part of like a car accident. They were all consistent, as if it was the same instrument that hit her.
Soula Berdoussis was a driver for Circle of Care, which transports people to medical appointments. She had just taken first aid training because of her job and ran to help. And I need to warn you, what you'll hear next is graphic in nature.
My first thing is I gotta get out, give CPR. I don't have something to put pressure on the blood because I could see that she was bleeding. We take CPR in my job, so we had just taken it, so everything was fresh. And there's lots of blood. I could see the blood pouring down, and she's on a hill, so the blood is pouring this way. And she had a gash here, here. There was so much blood, and I was very confused because they all looked the same. It wasn't as if there was glass in her from a car accident. So I looked up at the other body, and the body was lying on the right. And there was a shirt that was over her head, so I couldn't see at first if it was a woman or a man, but I did see her black bra. So then I did know it was a woman. She had 2 marks consistent to what I had just seen on the other body. And I looked down again at her face. And because I had worked at Sunnybrook and Emerge, I said, what the hell happened here? And I could see the blood running, and I could see her taking a breath. And all of a sudden, I could feel somebody over me. I did look up. I saw his black shoes, I saw his white socks, and the thing that I looked mostly as my life was flashing by me, I could see my son, I could see my parents, my friends, and that. I looked at his hands because I thought to myself, this is how I die. What if he started striking me with a knife over my head? He came over me, and I said, what the hell happened here? And he said, I killed her because she cheated. I said, what? You killed her because she cheated? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I would say he was around, 45 to 55. So the girl that was in front of me looked much younger. It wasn't a man and a woman. So that's why I was confused. There was 2 women because he never said that he killed them. He said her only. I backed up and I said to him, don't you dare move, don't you move. He was sitting right here on the guardrail. He was moving his head down as, okay, because I kept saying, don't move.
The interaction was caught on cell phone video.
Oh my God, but
She's got holes in her back. Well, we can get close though. The guy still has holes in her back. He told me that she was cheating.
she's on the real life. Someone help her.
Along with Soula Berdoussis, Royi Flescher was one of nearly a dozen civilian witnesses who felt helpless and terrified while trying to help the 2 victims that August afternoon in 2022.
The second younger victim started moving. Her hands was moving, one hand was moving, her fingers. So I started walking towards her to seeing if I could help. And as soon as I started walking towards her, the man picked up the knife again. He'd put the knife down, he'd picked it up and started walking towards me in a very threatening manner. And we looked straight into each other's eyes, and he gave me a murderous look that if you do this, I'm going to hurt you. When they checked her pulse, she was actually still alive. And because I saw them doing CPR on her for about 30 seconds. So even 10, 15 minutes after this, she was still alive. It took a long time for them to come. From the moment I got there until the police arrived was, I think it's close to 8 to 10 minutes.
Detective Sergeant Michael Taylor from Toronto Police's Homicide and Missing Person Unit said emergency calls had poured in from witnesses on the scene.
It was off the hook, yeah. The 911 calls, there were, for lack of a better term, there were a lot of them.
Ambulance, fire department, police. Someone just stabbed 2 women on Bathurst. I believe 2 women. The man is here.
We were told it was a stabbing, that 2 people had been stabbed on the roadway, and that the person responsible who did the stabbing was still at the scene. The stakes are now heightened, and obviously safety of everybody is paramount.
Royi Flescher and Soula Berdoussis watched as emergency services flooded the scene.
I remember I was sitting over there, standing there, and from the top of the hill, I could see a convoy of 6 police cars coming. And it's like, how are they going to get here? Like, there's no way they can get in because all the roads are blocked on both ways.
So me and the other guys were basically directing the cars to go around the bodies on the other side of the road to clear the traffic so the police could get there.
I started to direct traffic. I started screaming, let's go, let's move it.
Go away! Keep going! Keep going!
Started waving hands, shouting, screaming, move, get your car out of here.
And finally the police drove up.
Here's Detective Sergeant Michael Taylor from Toronto Police's Homicide and Missing Person Unit with details of what happened next.
I can describe it as chaos. There are cars everywhere, and the car involved had actually gone up to the curb. So essentially a whole lane of traffic right away is blocked. He was covered in blood. His hands were covered in blood. His shirt was a dark color, but you could tell there was staining on the shirt. There was one deceased female essentially behind the car. There was also a female kind of on the roadway sidewalk area. Life-saving measures were conducted. Unfortunately, they were with no avail. So the two women were pronounced deceased at the scene, and the person responsible is still there. This is the body cam footage of one of the first officers on scene.
Oh, here's his ID.
So Godfrey has now been identified. At this point, Godfrey's under arrest. So he's in custody and he is in the back of a police car. There's a red Good Life fitness bag. Godfrey was wearing that upon his arrest, and they're essentially searching it at this point. That, in fact, was the knife that was located. So it looks like it was wrapped in some sort of cloth material. It's a Cuisinart blade. You can see a little bit of red staining. That is, in fact, blood, and you can see it almost like a crack. It's not a crack, it's actually a black hair. It was observed by multiple witnesses that 2 knives were used during this incident. One of the knives he used was a large knife, and that knife he took and he threw it into the ravine. Here in this kind of guardrail, that, if you were to look over there, is the Don River. So that is in fact where the knife was thrown by Godfrey, and the witnesses indicated that. We didn't recover the second knife, unfortunately. I had the Marine unit, they brought a boat down. We had metal detectors. We had the K9 unit come and help in the bushy area, but we couldn't find it. Additionally, what was located in the back of the vehicle, and it was in the back passenger seat, was a black handle to a knife, only the handle. And when he was booked...
Oh, a blade with blood on it. That might have some evidentiary value.
Inside the bag that Mr. Godfrey was wearing on his arrest, it was a 5-inch blade.
Road can from the handle with dried, looks like blood, yeah.
We begin with breaking news coming out of North York. Police investigating a stabbing that has killed 2 people. They have arrested a suspect. Officers called to the area of Bathurst and Ellerslie around 3:30 this afternoon following reports of an altercation between a man and a woman. A 44-year-old and a 20-year-old were pronounced dead on scene. Those who knew them have since identified them as mother and daughter.
Now, police will only say that the accused, Godfrey Segot, is related to them, but they will not say exactly how.
Detective Sergeant Michael Taylor from Toronto Police's Homicide and Missing Person Unit said that with a suspect in custody, they now had to figure out the motive for this violent attack.
We all had the assumption that there was some sort of relationship between everybody. Besides being 2 females, one older than the other, and a male that was arrested, that's what we had at the time. We knew the car was registered to LV, and we basically worked backwards. I learned that Elvie and Angelica didn't have immediate family members here in Canada, that everybody was still back in the Philippines. All accounts, they were loved by everybody in the community, friends, family. Not one person I spoke to said anything negative about either one of them. They were, in all accounts, loving, happy mother and daughter. My big question was why? Why did you do it and how? Not in regards to how he physically did it, but how could you do that? How could somebody fathomably go over and kill your daughter and wife?
Witnesses who were first on the scene, like Royi Flescher, wondered the same thing.
So it was a couple of days after when I realized the extent of what happened, that this is not one person harming two other people. This is a man killing his wife and daughter in cold blood. I work in a butcher, I work in a slaughterhouse, and I throw around the term overkill. I have never used that word again. This was overkill.
First of all, you know your knives. Tell me about the knife. What kind of knife was it? Was it one knife, two knives?
I saw one knife. It was a hunting knife with an exceptionally long blade. So usually knives, they have a handle and a grip. So the both sides are not the same. This knife was the same on both sides because you would use it to hold it like this or hold it like this. It's just like the stabbing motion was like two hands driving in again with full force. It probably would have gone through the body and hit the ground and hit the road because there was that much force and that long a blade. He was fully intent on causing as much damage and harm as possible.
As news of the attack spread, the community began to mourn for 44-year-old Elvie and 20-year-old Angelica Sigod.
A small memorial has formed here at the scene of what took place on Friday. This is where people have come to put flowers, a stuffed animal, messages, tokens that speak volumes about the enormity of this loss. Now, friends have identified the women as a mother and daughter, Elvie and Angelica Sigod.
I never called her Angelica. I always called her Angel, because that's what she was. She wasn't your average camp employee.
We spoke to Abraham Levy, who hired Angelica to work at Camp Shalom, a summer camp in Gravenhurst several years ago. He describes her as a tenacious, hardworking, joyful young woman who had her whole life ahead of her.
A couple of years after she came to work at the camp, her mom made a big bash for her, for her birthday. And of course, my son went, and she was dressed like a bride, and it's a bride who would never be one.
We've since learned that Angelica was a student at Seneca College, the school expressing its deep sadness over social media by her sudden death, saying our thoughts are with Miss Sigod's loved ones, friends, and Seneca classmates and professors.
Soula Berdoussis, who ran to the mother and daughter's side to try to help them, followed the news closely.
The next day there was a poster saying who she was, had a picture.
And you learned their names were Elvie and Angelica Sigod. And then to see that a man with the same last name had been charged with their murder, what was that like?
That affected me. Being a mother, I couldn't even think of. I'm still in shock.
Meanwhile, the investigation continued, and Detective Sergeant Mike Taylor said the autopsies revealed Elvie was stabbed 5 times in her face, 8 times in her torso, and once in her upper limb. Angelica suffered 7 stab wounds to her head and neck, and 12 to her torso and limbs.
Angelica was stabbed 19 times, and Elvie was stabbed 14 times. What would cause somebody to inflict this much pain on a family member like that? What would make somebody do this to both their wife and their daughter?
Investigators soon found out that Elvie had already gone to police years earlier.
Have a seat over there.
Okay, I'm just going to check that the audio and video is recording, and I'll be right back. Okay.
This is, in fact, Elvie Sigod. She has attended a police station in York Region. The date is November 20th, 2020. This video in particular really sets the picture of Elvie and Godfrey's relationship. I got to know Elvie through this video.
I'm going to ask you some questions to get some history,
Okay.
and then we'll go into what happened today so I understand what brought you here.
Yeah.
To be able to see her like that, it hits home. It's very real.
How did it make you feel?
I got scared. My legs were shaking. Yeah, and I felt really nervous.
We're actually looking at somebody who was murdered, providing a statement to police about the person who essentially murdered her. This is as real as it gets.
So, Elvie, I understand that you have a daughter?
Yes.
And what's her name?
Angelica?
And I also understand that you're currently married legally?
Yes.
And to whom are you married?
To Godfrey Sigod.
And that officer there is Detective Garford, and she is the investigating officer in regards to Elvie's complaint.
We got married in 2001, but then when I went abroad in 2004, it's like we're almost separated.
Elvie had come first. She had left Angelica back in the Philippines with Godfrey's mother, so her grandmother. Elvie was, last they had told me that she was a personal support worker. To come to Canada without your daughter to seek a better life, it's a significant sacrifice. And the plan would be that Angelica would come, and then essentially Godfrey would come.
Yeah, I went overseas, and then since that time he got involved to another woman, and then to the point that they had a child together. He also had other relationships. I didn't have any communication with my husband for a long time. So my daughter got here in March 2011. Until now, she's here with me. And then just lately, just 2019, when his mother talked to me and asked me if I can help her son, for me to sponsor her and bring him here so that he can work. And he also asked me to work out on our relationship. Yeah, I sponsored him, yes. In January 2020. Since that time he came here in Canada, I was observing if he's shown some changes, because back home he was so radical. If he doesn't get his way, he would do something, he would break something in the house.
Investigators would learn that Elvie and Godfrey were no longer living together. She had asked him to move out that October after, she says, he threatened their daughter Angelica, an incident that resulted in Elvie contacting police.
She just couldn't take it anymore. And, once the threat, the incident in York Region, it kind of separated the family. And that's when Elvie started the process to divorce.
He constantly insults me, and he's very cruel. He's very verbally abusive.
Is this the first time you've communicated since you moved out?
No, he's been, once in a while, he's been messaging me with the harassment, and he kept telling me about his allegations.
So Godfrey's accusing her of having a boyfriend, and she's having an intimate relationship with him.
But I have to unblock him to message him about the divorce paper that I'm coming to his work to pick it up.
This morning, she attended Godfrey's address where his employment to get divorce papers. So she wanted to get divorce papers signed.
I went this morning there to collect divorce paper that he said he signed already. That's when he said the threat that he wants to kill me, and then he wants to take my 2 eyes out.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I can't. When he said that, I started to shake. My legs were shaking, and then he came to my face close like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you...
That's when I pushed him.
Okay, and how did you push him?
My hand?
Just the one?
Yeah.
One hand?
Yeah,
okay.
just one hand.
Okay, and what did you say to him?
You must keep your distance.
Again, that's Elvie. She's here to speak to investigators and report about Godfrey and his actions.
My sister had died a month ago. He wants me to follow her, like I'm the next one to die. And then he said that I've been planning to kill you. Yeah. And before I came here, I've been planning, that was my plan, to kill you. And then he said that he will take out my 2 eyes.
The trial of Godfrey Sigod began just over 2.5 years after the brutal killing of Elvie and Angelica Sigod on January 21st, 2025.
The trial has begun for a Toronto man charged with the first-degree murders of his ex-wife and daughter. Our crime specialist, Catherine McDonald, has more.
Godfrey Sigod tried to plead guilty to manslaughter Tuesday, admitting he killed his ex-wife Elvie and his daughter Angelica. But the Crown rejected that plea and said it was proceeding with the first-degree murder charges, saying it will prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Godfrey intended to kill his ex-wife and daughter that day, saying it was planned and deliberate. Daniel Brodsky said Godfrey Sigod testified that Elvie was demanding $3,500 to cover the cost of sponsoring him to come to Canada, money he said he did not have.
In this case, there was a seeming confession, but it's easy to take things out of context. There's no witness who saw planning, who saw deliberation. My client really wanted his passport, his PR card, documents. He was stuck. He couldn't go home, and he wanted his stuff back from Elvie. My client was told, I'm not giving you your stuff unless you pay me.
Detective Sergeant Mike Taylor and Daniel Brodsky gave me details of what they believe happened inside the silver Lexus on the afternoon of August 26, 2022. And I need to warn you that the following information is graphic and violent in nature.
Arrangements were made by him to meet them that day. So why would somebody bring 2 knives to go out with his wife and daughter?
Good question. Why does a person have 2 large knives? Why do you have a vegetable knife and a bigger knife in your bag? There was 1 knife that he used for his food, and there was 1 knife that he had for protection. He said that there was a guy who was a member of a gang who didn't like him very much. He wanted to be able to defend himself. The defense was not a complicated defense. I'm going to convince her to come and pick me up. I'm going to get my documents back.
So they picked him up from his house, and Elvie was driving.
All that stuff was 6 inches from her right arm at the time she was killed. He didn't know it was in the armrest of the car. She did.
It's very hard forensically to say who in fact was stabbed first, but indication from within the vehicle, I believe that Angelica was stabbed first, who was the passenger.
There's an argument in the car, and Angelica saying, I side with Mom, and not only do I side with Mom, I want to have nothing to do with you or your side of the family, and I'm not supporting your mother in some country that I have no connection to anymore.
There's a significant amount of blood that is in the wheel well area and the seat as well. Angelica, she was sitting in this seat when the incident happened. So this is the front passenger seat with a tear. And we know that Godfrey was sitting behind Angelica. And this is the back passenger seat and the footwell area. This is the knife handle. I would suggest that it happened, it broke, and he almost transitioned to another knife. And I don't know if the attack then went to Elvie, but something caused that vehicle to mount the curb within that car. To begin stabbing somebody inside a vehicle multiple times while it's in motion is just unfathomable. This is Angelica's shirt. It's saturated with blood. This would be right in between the throat area.
Elvie Sigod sat down with York Regional Police in November 2020 to report a death threat she says her husband Godfrey Sigod made towards her. In the video shown in court, she tells police Godfrey had repeatedly accused her of having a relationship with another man, and that he threatened her, and that he planned to kill her. The officer who conducted the interview with Elvie testified an arrest warrant was put out for Godfrey's arrest for uttering threats, but told the jury he was never arrested. The 2 York officers who were dispatched to meet with Angelica and Elvie in Markham in October 2020, also testified. Angelica had also reported she was scared after her father threatened to kill her. The mother and daughter asked about getting a restraining order, but were told they had to go to court to get one. Detective Jennifer Garford testified she did not recall going to Godfrey's work to find him. It wasn't until almost 1 month later that she called to ask about security camera footage, but it no longer existed. When asked why she waited, she said she did not have an answer to that. Detective Garford testified it was her understanding that Godfrey Sigod did not have a phone, and she didn't have a work account to contact him through Facebook. When she inquired with her operations center about sending a Facebook message, she, quote, wasn't afforded access. Detective Garford also testified that in late April of 2021, nearly 5 months after her interview with Elvie, they connected with a person who knew Godfrey and said they could send him a Facebook message asking him to contact police. But it's unclear if that happened. Godfrey Sigod's lawyer says he never knew about the warrant.
So now they have a warrant for an arrest, they have a statement from a complainant, and did they go to where Elvie went? Did they go to his work to say, hey, Mr. Sigod, we want to have a chat? Did they go and get his driver's license to look at his address of where he's living? Everybody knows he hangs out at the gym. The people who live in the gym and lift up heavy things and take lots of steroids. My client was doing that. They know he communicates with people on Facebook Messenger. They send him a Toronto Police Facebook Messenger saying, Godfrey, we want you to come in. Nope. And I don't have a crystal ball, but how can anybody not wonder that if the police did their job, whether we be having this interview right now, in circumstances as clear as he threatened to kill me, and he has the means to do it, and I'm frightened why the police wouldn't treat it like something that's urgent. When the police officer who could have done all of those things testified in court, she cried. She knows she could have done any of those things. Unfortunately, I think that a threat made at the end of a relationship, on the doorstep of a divorce, may not be taken as serious by the police as something more direct and unconnected to something else.
We requested to speak with all 3 of the York Region police officers involved, including Detective Garford. We were told that none of them were available. We asked York Region why Godfrey Sigod was never arrested and what attempts were made to locate him. They responded that they needed more time, quote, as the questions are in-depth in relation to a specific case, it is a time-consuming process to facilitate a request of this nature. Detective Sergeant Mike Taylor from Toronto Police said the victim, Elvie Sigod, did everything right.
I can't answer for York Region, so I won't, but they believe there were enough grounds to get an arrest warrant out for him, and he just wasn't located. She did everything that she could. Yeah, she did everything proper.
He keeps disrespecting me, insulting me. Mm-hmm.
She is basically relaying what he said he's going to do. And 2 years later, he did it. One thing that Elvie expressed to the investigators at York Region was what she described as harassment through messaging, Facebook Messenger. This is a significant piece of evidence. This is from Godfrey to Elvie. Ma, when will we get married again? So I know, because I miss you so much. I love you forever, moi. So it's just in succession, bang, 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 all these text messages, and you can tell no response from Elvie whatsoever. Elvie and Angelica were killed approximately 3:30, and this is 11:25 that same morning. Ma, please, I beg you to agree to form out family. Our skin will soon become wrinkled. So that's the last message that Godfrey sent to Elvie. Elvie calls Godfrey at 3:17 p.m. Maybe I'm coming. and maybe I'm here, or get ready, I'm coming to pick you up. Less than 20 minutes later after this call, LV and Angelica are deceased.
Here's Daniel Brodsky, Godfrey Segod's lawyer.
Sometimes lawyers are persuasive, but let me tell you, in Godfrey's own words, from my jury address, what happened that afternoon. Godfrey testified that he, quote, got mad, very, very mad, unquote. He said he checked his bag for his cell phone and saw the knife and, quote, that's it. I just exploded. When I noticed next is they were all lying down and my hands have blood, and I was saying, quote, why did you do this to me? Why? My client was in a blind rage. After he was in a blind rage, he was down on his hands and knees, crying, trying to put it all together right then and there. You can call that calm if you like. I call it being numb, being in shock.
Royi Flescher was one of nearly a dozen civilian witnesses who testified in Godfrey Segod's trial.
So your testimony about how he was frenzied and he was in this blind rage and the overkill and then he became calm, it seemed that played into the defense's theory.
I mean, they picked on the words blind rage. When I said that when he did this crime, he was in a blind rage, and when he finished, he was calm. The cross-examination went for over an hour, and I was hounded by the defense.
Segod said he never planned nor deliberated the killings and said he just saw the knife in his gym bag when he went to look for his cell phone. He said he couldn't remember how many times he stabbed his ex-wife nor his daughter, but remembered crying afterwards saying, quote, why did you do this to me? You ruined everything.
After almost 3 weeks of trial and 3 days of deliberations, the jury found Godfrey Segod guilty of first-degree murder of his ex-wife, Elvie, and guilty of second-degree murder in the death of his daughter, Angelica.
How did you feel?
It's not going to bring them back to life. It's not going to change anything. And what's the purpose? This gentleman is not a Canadian citizen. They were going to deport him as soon as his prison sentence was finished.
In 2024, MPP Kristen Wong-Tam introduced a private member's bill to have intimate partner violence deemed an epidemic in Ontario, part of a growing movement across Canada.
What I want everyone to understand is that intimate partner violence is preventable, and that the deaths of Angelica as well as Elvie were preventable. They reported the crime, there should have been follow-up, and if the justice system worked in the way that it was designed and intended to work, they would still be alive today. When other women who are in those abusive relationships hear about Elvie's story, those women will most likely think, why should I go to the police? It elevates the significance of the problem. The acknowledgement tells everyone in all the ministries, in all the government institutions, in all the police units that this is a problem that is pervasive, but it's also something that is important enough that we're going to address it by naming it. We are seeing advocates and women trying to address the problems themselves, and the only real agency, the real partner that can do all that work is the Government of Ontario. So therefore, police officers who don't follow up after a survivor has come forward to provide a police report should not dismiss it and do nothing as a follow-up, because the Government of Ontario has declared it as an epidemic, and you move with wartime speed, a whole government approach to deal with the epidemic.
Years after they stopped to help Elvie and Angelica, Soula Berdoussis and Royi Flescher continue to be impacted by this case.
That man not only took 2 lives, he destroyed a lot of lives that witnessed what he did. There was so many people that were crying and screaming. You don't forget something like that.
I was told I was going to get $1,000 worth of therapy sessions. By the time they got that information to me and I applied, well, it's too late. don't qualify for it anymore. I was having nightmares. I was having difficulty breathing. I was having fits of rage. Basically, they said, well, you're suffering from a stress which is current. We only deal with post-traumatic stress. There's nothing we can do to help you. And I didn't feel like harming myself before. I just gave up. And that was the beginning of a spiral that lasted for close to 6 months. And I wasn't able to come to work. I couldn't walk into a room with knives in there. I had to hide all the knives in the house. 6 months after that, business shut down and had to declare bankruptcy. I wasn't a witness. I was a victim. In essence, which was probably the most difficult part, is he tried to kill me.
Detective Sergeant Michael Taylor from Toronto Police's Homicide and Missing Person Unit says he is grateful Soula and Royi stopped and tried to help.
The first people that were there were all civilian people who were fantastic, very brave and courageous. I can't thank everybody enough that day that stopped.
You know, I think that everybody should stop. If you can, videotape if something's going on. It might not be important today, it might be important tomorrow. I had to stop and try to help. And if I could have saved that life, I would have been, I always say that I'm sorry that I couldn't save you. He didn't allow me to possibly save. And you know, I had some guilt because I did see that she was breathing. Now it could have been her last breath, I'm not sure, but he didn't give me the option to try to save his daughter.
I have a daughter the same age, and this was so difficult. This was so difficult for me to deal with. From a personal level, I deal with the horrendous guilt. And what if I got there a little bit earlier? What if I would have just jumped out of my car and ran at him? The second victim may very well be alive today.
Sadly, Elvie and Angelica's case is not unique. Stats show that in the years leading up to their murders, rates of femicide in Canada rose by 27%. In his victim impact statement, Elvie's brother wrote, "The pain of losing Elvie and Angelica is very intense. Their laughter, voice, and presence were stolen from us. The grief is unbearable." Thank you so much for listening. Crime Beat is hosted by me, Nancy Hixt. This episode originally aired on Crime Beat TV on May 18th, 2025, and was reported on by Catherine McDonald. For photos and other information on this story, please head to Global News. I'll add the link to the show notes. To watch this episode, please subscribe to the Crime Beat TV YouTube channel. This episode was adapted to podcast by our senior producer, Dila Velasquez. Audio and sound design by Rob Johnston. Thanks again for listening. Please join me next time on Crime Beat.